Hello, everybody. Welcome to Big Talk Pigskin. I'm Andre Price, and I'm joined by Bowden Jerome. Bowden, how you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing good today, man. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good myself. Excited to talk about some football today. We had a big week in the Big Ten. A lot of exciting games. We had some blowouts. We had some close games, not so close games. We even had some double overtime. So it's a lot to jump into today. So first, we'll get started with our Michigan and Oklahoma game. Bowden, what are your thoughts for that game so far?
I thought that Michigan looked kind of sluggish, especially at the start. They played well. Bryce played well. He did have some weak spots, a couple missing balls there, here and there. But overall, I think they did well, especially behind a freshman quarterback in his second start and his first on-the-road start, especially against a big team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it was pretty good too. I really enjoyed the defense from Oklahoma. It felt like they put a lot of pressure on Michigan. I don't know necessarily what it was, but it seemed like kind of they couldn't get their protection on point. Bryce Underwood, it seemed like he had to spend a lot of time out of the pocket, a lot of time trying to make plays outside of the pocket, and that's not really something you want your freshman quarterback to be doing. You don't want him building any bad habits or anything like that. But I did enjoy that game, though. I think Michigan definitely was sluggish. They should have picked it up and got it going a little bit more.
I really liked Justice Haynes in this game. Their running back at Michigan. He looked pretty good the entire time, and that 75-yard rush that he broke for a touchdown was solid. Great O-line play on that play, but he really, really showed them.
I was going to say, that was a big way to start the second half. They needed it to get some energy, momentum going, but it wasn't enough to carry them going. The DBs were all over them. Like I was saying, Oklahoma defense, they carried it over to the second half. What stood out to me was the QB runs for Oklahoma, though. It's what had Michigan in a little bit of a blender. They didn't really know what to do. They tried to play some zones, but then that created spaces, and QBs were taking advantage of that. You turn man, then your DBs or backers have their back turned, so he's taking advantage of that. So it kind of had a bit of a blender, and it messed them up. A lot of times they had them in chances to make some big stops and chances to keep them in the game, but they're missing out on them because they couldn't get those third and fourth down stops.
Right, yeah, definitely. The defense just couldn't stop John Mateer, and I mean, he transferred in from Washington State, looked good there last year on that, kind of weird spot for Washington State, not being Power 5 anymore, but they kind of are. But he looks good at Oklahoma.
Yeah. One big thing that stood out for me was Deion Burks. He was a transfer. He originally was at Michigan, but he transferred to Oklahoma, and he had a huge game. He went off. He had a lot of contested catches. He was drawing in some PIs, and I think he was just kind of one of the spark plugs and the big energy guys. And I know some of the Michigan fans, not even the fans, but the players, they had some weird feelings about it, seeing one of their guys playing that well against him. I know it kind of hurt him and shook him up a little bit.
Right, definitely. And you never want to play against your old teammates.
No. So Deion Burks had 7 catches for 101 yards and 1 touchdown. He averaged 14.4 yards a catch. So whenever you have a guy who averages over a first down to catch, that's easily somebody you want to keep feeding. You want to keep trying to get the ball to.
Definitely. He was really impressive.
Yeah. Something else that kind of had Michigan in trouble. So in the second quarter, they missed their field goal. And I think that kind of shook up a little bit of momentum going into the second half. If they could have made that, it would have evened out the score a little bit more, and it would put them in just a better spot to try and compete. But they also had a chance when Oklahoma punted the ball and they muffed it, and Michigan ended up recovering. They had their chance there to make their plays, but they only ended up with a field goal, so they just couldn't convert, and that was another problem. If you're only getting field goals and you're making half, missing half, you're never going to be able to win. So you have to get some points. You have to score touchdowns. And that was just a big problem. They seemed like they couldn't really finish. They would get some sparks and some energies and a lot of plays and moments that would give you hope. But, the hope kind of ran out. I don't know. They just couldn't finish, couldn't complete.
Yeah, special teams missing that field goal really killed their momentum in that game. And honestly, I think they make that field goal, that game could have turned out completely.
Mhm. Yeah, they're definitely going to have to make some adjustments for later on in the season. Um, they were ranked 15th, and they were going against the 18th rank, so they're probably going to drop down. And I know they want to be in that top 12 when the season ends, but I don't know. I always talk back to Ohio State, but I don't know. This is a good sign for Ohio State, but a bad sign for Michigan. But I don't think of it as too big of a loss because Oklahoma is a really good team. I think that they have a good shot of being in that 12, ended up in the playoffs later on in the year. But I think Michigan does too. They just have to figure out some of their pieces and find out who more of their stars are, get some more guys to step out and stand out, show out for them.
Yeah, and I think under a freshman quarterback, if the Michigan goes 9-3, this is a successful year.
Yeah,
this is a very successful year if they even go 9-3. I mean, with a freshman quarterback, that's all you can really ask for. You can't expect him to be perfect. And honestly, I think they're really setting themselves up for success the next 2 years.
Yeah, and it's not the NFL. You don't want to work and plan and hope and build for the future. But Michigan, they're in a good position to do that. You had some good recruits, some guys especially some receivers, because Ohio State's still in all like the top receivers. But if you got like a guy like Bryce Underwood, I would love to go play for him. So now they will get some top recruits to add with that, add some more explosion to the offense, because I feel like they're only a couple like small key pieces away from being like a true like top 5 team.
Yeah, definitely would agree with that. And their receiver play looks better this year than it did last year already, which is really good for them. And usually, you think of Michigan, you think of run, throw the ball when you have to. But it seems like they're really starting to spread things out a lot more, and I really like that look from them.
Yeah. And they did spread the ball out a little bit. So Devin McCulley, Michigan's receiver number 1, he had 3 catches for 91 yards. But he was the standout guy for Michigan receiving wise. And then the next best receiver only had 25 yards. So there's a big gap between like everyone else. And the most receptions any receiver had in that game was 3 for Michigan. Bryce only completed 9 passes for 142 yards. 9 for 24 is not a good game at all. He struggled to complete the ball. He didn't have much pressure, and he had to do a lot more than you would want somebody to do to try and win a big game like this.
Yeah, definitely. I'd like to see him use his legs a little bit more than he has, because I think he can be strong on his legs as well.
Yeah, he ran 3 times, but he had negative yards, so he couldn't really do much. Part of that comes to any like sacks he takes that counts as negative yards to it too. But the big running game was from Justice Haynes. So he had 19 carries for 125 yards and a touchdown. And I think that was just huge. So, like, when you take what he did with Donovan McCulley, like, you add that and a couple more pieces, like, you really do have something special there.
Yeah, I think Michigan is building, and they're going to be solid here soon. I think as the season goes on, that team's going to start to gel together more and more, and they're going to look better and better.
I was going to say, for how that game went, because their defense, I still think their defense did pretty good for only giving them 24, because they kept it a close and manageable game for the most part, I would say. Even for, like, the differences, like, Oklahoma's quarterback, he put up 270 yards, and there was a big spread in diversity in how many people caught the ball. One receiver had 7, another had 5, another had 4. They had 3 guys with over 30, or they had 4 receivers with over 35 receiving yards. So, like, it was a big game. A lot of it spreads, and that just shows, like, how you have to get people involved. You have to have people who can step up and make plays. And when you have that, like, that's how you get the results you did.
Exactly.
So next, we'll transition over to the Iowa and Iowa State game. I know this is a big game for you. I know you have a lot to say about this.
I do. This game, the first quarter, Iowa looked awful. Like, nothing about the first quarter looked good on Iowa's end. They couldn't do anything. And that honestly killed their whole game. They looked strong all the way, the whole rest of the game, other than the last drive where they took 2 sacks in a row,
Mm-hmm.
and had, no timeouts at that point. Killed the game for them, the first quarter and the last drive of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And the offense, it looked better,
Yeah.
than it has in years past, but
Mm-hmm.
Mark Gronowski couldn't do very well throwing wise. I mean, he only had 83 yards on 13 completions out of 24 passes. So, I mean, over 50%, but it wasn't looking good. He had an interception, and that was on a slipped route by the receiver. So it really sucked.
Yeah.
It was not good to see. Iowa State looks really, really good. They
Mm-hmm.
probably, in my opinion, I think they're the best school in the Big 12 right now, especially with Arizona State losing last night to Mississippi State.
Yeah.
And then I will say the receivers dropped a lot of passes for Iowa.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't very good. The defense, they did what they can. They always do, but you can't stop the opposing team every single time. And you need your offense to be able to balance out your defense. And that's been Iowa's biggest problem for the past 5-6 years.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't been good.
Yeah. So at the beginning of the game, I noticed that Iowa State kind of got their run game going. It didn't necessarily put up any points, but it chewed up a lot of clock in the first half, and it kind of just established the tone for the rest of the game. But Iowa, they had a bad rough start. They had their chance, but they kind of just shot themselves in the foot. At the end of the first quarter, Iowa State, they got a tackle for a TFL. The quarterback fumbles the snap. They get a sack, and then Iowa State goes to punt, or Iowa punts, but then Iowa State muffles the punt, and Iowa recovers. So they have their chance at the end of the first quarter to make a play, but then they only get a barely made field goal that I thought it missed.
Yeah.
I had to watch the replay.
It's actually that seeing that field goal actually reminds me of last year's game versus Iowa State. The end of the game in 2024, Iowa State kicked a game-winning field goal at the last second that actually went right over top of the uprights, just like Iowa's kick. And you actually can't review it if it goes over the uprights because there's no angle that you can directly see. So whatever's called on the field is how it would stay. So everybody in the stadium, everybody knew that they couldn't review that after what happened last year. So I think it's kind of justice for last year that we got that field goal, but I mean, it didn't matter. We lost.
Yeah. And if you would have scored off that possession instead of just a field goal, I think that would have gave you guys a lot of momentum because on the next drive, you guys got the ball. You ended up throwing a pick, and then that's when Iowa State kind of took off. They scored after the pick from that momentum. And then you guys did good. You guys got some momentum. Your two-minute drill started off great. You made it to the red zone, but then you got sacked on third down. But then there was a flag that made it first down. You guys ended up scoring in the first half, so that was good. And it gave me I don't know. It kind of got me thinking this might be a ball game. Iowa might get it done and might do it.
That's exactly what I was thinking there too. I mean, we got bailed out by the flag, but it happens to everybody around the country. We were lucky to get it, and we capitalized off it at least. But that's really the only time of the game that we decided to capitalize off anything given to us.
What adjustments would you have made if you were one of the coaches coming out into the second half?
We need to throw the ball more. The ball, and we need to take some more deep shots. They tried, and which it did draw a pass interference, which put us down, helped us a little bit there. But they still didn't even score off that drive, and I really only saw that one deep ball get thrown the entire game. I think we need to throw more deep balls. We need to take more shots down the field, especially early on. Early on, it seems we're only running the ball, and I know that's our strong suit, and I know that's what we build our team off of, and our O-line's really good, but you gotta air out the ball a little bit. And that takes me to a point I have of, under the new OC Tim Lester, that he was here last year was his first season. This is his second year. Everybody thought we were going to have a revamped, different offense. And last year didn't look much different, and we thought that was mostly on the quarterback. This year still doesn't look much different than Brian Ferentz's offenses were a couple years ago. So that just leads me to believe that head coach Kirk Ferentz he's running all of it. He's calling all the shots, and he's making them play through his style and not letting the OC have any kind of free range. And it just makes me think, is it time for Kirk Ferentz to be done? The fan base has been saying it for a couple of years, and you don't want to shoot yourself in the foot by firing a guy or forcing a guy out who constantly gets you winning seasons and takes you to bowl games.
Mm-hmm.
But we need to revamp the offense, and that's never going to happen with Kirk Ferentz. Here's what it seems. He's going to get the record this year for most wins by a Big Ten coach. That will happen. Iowa won't lose out. So he will get that record. I think he takes the record, and I think he should go.
Yeah, definitely. I think you got to leave out on a good note because Iowa does have a good team, but it's like you don't want to just keep settling for a winning season every year because like bowl games, like you get tired of a bowl game. Eventually, you want to get to the national championship. You want to be one of the best of the best. And like right now, they're not even ranked. Like you're a team that can come into the preseason being unranked. And like that's not kind of the feeling you want. Like that's not how you want your program to be. So I don't know. I think it's time. Like you don't want to risk finding a coach who will take you a step down because I'd rather be a winning team than than taking that risk and being a losing team, finding a coach who really can't get it done. So I don't know. You might have to find some new pieces around the head coach who are bold enough and confident enough to step up and speak and like address the issues that are going on. Like we can't keep doing this. We need to switch to this. We can't keep running this. We need to start running this. So I think somebody has to step up and speak up or make some changes with the staff.
Yeah, there's some sort of change in there that needs done. And like I said, I think it's at the head coach level at this point. I think he should take the record and walk away after the season's over. But Kirk Ferentz will have that job until he decides he's done with it. He's done too much. He's the best coach in school history. And Hayden Fry was a legend back in the 70s, 80s. But this is Kirk Ferentz's program. He'll never get the boot. And as much as that is a good thing, it's nice to have a coach that has that long standing of pride and has that recognition to him. It also just sucks with the situation that we've been put in these past couple of years.
Yeah, I think they need to, and we have a guy that impactful on the team and the program, and probably even more like the school itself. I think you have to be creative in ways of removing guys. So you don't want to get rid of him in the program, but you don't want him as coach. So maybe you offer you could be director of football or give him a different title to where he's not the head coach, but he's still involved in football. So because you have ways to make everybody happy. But at the end of the day, it's still a business. So,
right.
Smiles and good friendships don't win games.
No, they don't. And, there's these new GM roles that have come out, with all the NIL, like Andrew Luck's the GM over at Stanford.
Yeah.
Maybe he needs to go up to that role and not be the coach anymore. Focus on other things, can still help recruit. You still have that guy in the program doing stuff for the program, but he's not the coach anymore.
Yeah. Because you guys definitely had a chance to win the day, or win the other day. In the fourth quarter, it was a tie game, 13-13. I really thought you guys had it. But then Iowa State went down. And they made that 54-yard field goal, and that was a long bomb. And you guys got the ball and got it and just gave it up. Sacks back to back, and it was a rough one to watch. I thought you guys really were going to pull it away. What do you think about that ending?
Yeah, I mean, this game always seems to come down to special teams. It's always something. I remember a couple years ago where Iowa State muffed their punt because they had two players ran into each other. Iowa got the ball, scored a touchdown that ended up being the deciding factor. Last year, last second field goal in the game. This year, it was, they scored on that field goal. Was really hoping we could block it since somehow there always seems to be a way Iowa blocks a field goal early on in the season, but haven't seen that yet.
Yeah.
So it just sucks.
Yeah.
It happens. We move on to the next game. We still have the tools to win 9 games this year,
Definitely.
But who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah. So next, we're going to move over to our Duke and Illinois game. And that one was, if you look at the score did not represent how the game really went. Illinois ended up taking off the third, fourth quarter. But if you were like watching the first half, like it could have been anybody's game. You might even thought like Duke was going to win. But it just kind of it was like another sabotage like game. Like Duke just they were just giving it away. They were dropping the ball. Like they had touchdowns just in both their hands. They're dropping them, giving them up. They're getting flags. And Illinois, they were just dialed in. Like their quarterback was just on point. He was just having a game and having a day. And I enjoyed it though. I really liked the game. It was just sad to watch like the way Duke just lost. Because it looked like they were going to win until that ending where Illinois just took off back to back the points like that.
Yeah, Duke had a lot of fight in them in the first half, especially in the first half. Mm-hmm. They just I don't know what was said to Illinois at halftime in the locker room, but they came out guns a-blazing. They were firing, and they outscored Duke 31-6 in the second half.
Yeah. And third, Illinois, they scored a field goal. Well, they scored with a fake reverse, and then that's when they really kind of separated and went 28-13. Duke came out and scored, and it was 28-19, but then Illinois scored again with the field goal. They get a pick. They scored again 38-19. They made Duke fumble, and then they scored again to go 45-19. And it was like, if you take away just that little section of the game, like that little blooper, that sad portion of the game, like it's so much different. But Luke Altmaier for Illinois, their quarterback, he was just a man on the mission. He was on fire. 22 for 31, 296 yards, 3 touchdowns. Like he had himself a day. He might have been one of the Big Ten players of the week. He might have been one of them.
Yeah, he looks really good. He really impressed me this week. He was impressive last year, but this week, this game especially, like actually really, really impressed me. And then the defense for Illinois, they looked really solid. They forced 5 turnovers, 4 fumble recoveries. They had an interception as well. The offense was just, able to capitalize off a lot of those opportunities.
Yeah. And for Duke, who really impressed me was Darian Mensah, their quarterback. He was on fire. He was definitely competing for that player of the week spot. He went 23 of 34 for 334 yards with 2 touchdowns. And he did throw a pick, but I mean, I'll give up that one pick for the way he played. He was fighting, and he was just the heart and soul of that Duke team, like really just trying to do everything he can. He was getting like harassed in that backfield. He's running around, rolling out of the pocket. And it kind of looked like similar to like an old Browns office when they had Baker Mayfield with all the rollouts and stuff like that. They had to get him out of that pocket, but he was just dialed in, throwing great balls. It was just the receivers. They just weren't coming down with the ball. They had a lot of chances to score, a lot of opportunities, but just did not come up with them. But they still did have some bigger receivers like Cooper. He had 4 catches for 88 yards. Chase, he had 1 catch, but he went for 62. Andre Anthony, he had 5 catches for 58. Another guy had 4 catches for 44. Like they had a good spread sheet. Like if you looked at these stats, you would think that it would have been a lot closer than it was. That just goes to show you like how quickly things can change in a football game. It can just happen like that.
Yeah, that's how much like turnovers matter and how much they mean to the score.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a big shock to see. I really didn't expect it, but I don't know. Hopefully Duke will come out better next week, but I'm really interested to see what Illinois' ranking, if it'll bump them up any or not.
They shot up to number 9.
To number 9? Okay, good, yep. Good. Yeah. So what is that? 4 teams in the top top 10 now?
Yep, 4 teams in the top 10. Ohio State, obviously, up top at number 1. Penn State follows them at number 2. And then you have Oregon at number 4. They're trying to get that number 3 spot. It'd be awesome if we had 3 in the top 3.
Yeah.
And then, Illinois rounds out the top 10 at number 9.
Okay. Do you know where Michigan fell to?
I'm not sure. I believe they're in the 20s.
Okay. Let me check. It says Michigan. Yeah, they're 23. They dropped down.
Yeah, and I think that's a big fall after that game. They didn't get blown out. They never were really in full control in that game either. But I don't know. I think they kind of rewarded Oklahoma a little too much by jumping them up 5 spots, and
Yeah,
Michigan dropped 8 spots. I just think it was a little much, but
yeah.
it's early. It's early rankings. They don't matter yet. The playoff rankings are what matter. These
Mhm.
just kind of set the pathway for later on.
Yeah. Honestly, talking about the rankings moving, I thought that Penn State should have moved down. I don't think they should have stayed number 2. Uh, so we can go ahead and use that as a chance to transition into the Penn State and FIU game. And that game, it ended up being 34-0. But just looking at that first half, I think the first half ended, I want to say like 10-0.
10-0.
Yeah, it was a rough half for Penn State to say. They couldn't really get much going though. So it was, I don't know, it was kind of embarrassing for them. Like, because FIU is not a team who should have been able to even hold them to 10 in any quarter. I think they should have been able to score 10 every quarter.
Yeah, they definitely should have ran all over Florida International, which I mean they did in the second half, not much in the first.
Um, so yeah, Penn State, it was definitely a rough start for them. So they started with some good run game, which led to play action and start off the game for their first score, but they only had one score in the first quarter, so the score ended up only being 7-0. Then FIU starts the second quarter. They came out driving the ball down the field. They had some big plays, but they ended up throwing a pick once they got to the red zone. So Penn State comes back, but they get stopped on the fourth for a turnover down, and then they come down and they get blocked, and they block the punt on the next drive. So it kind of gets them some momentum, but they only get held to a field goal. So then that makes it just 10-0 in the second half. And they end up getting the ball back in the second half. At the end of the second half, they go to kick a field goal, and FIU blocks it to hold them to 10-0 in the half. So after watching all that, I kind of was just like, Penn State sucks, and they're going to drop out, and I don't know. They were all hyped up for nothing.
Yeah, Drew Aller hasn't looked overly impressive in the first 2 games of the season. I hope for the guy that he turns this around. I mean, he wasn't bad in this game. He did have a lot of missed throws, a lot of miscues. I mean, he still went 19 for 33, had 200 yards, 2 touchdowns.
Yeah.
If you'd like to see the completions up more, I mean, when you're missing 14 passes, that's a lot.
Yeah. But I don't know. They showed that they can score, but it's like even when they did pick it up and kind of got explosive, it didn't seem like as explosive as you would expect from the number 2 team. Like they came out in the second half and they started out with a field goal, so they started out a little slow. And they came out and got a stop, and then they took a huge shot downfield, and it seemed like that's when it kind of picked up and kind of got going for them. But then they ended up scoring. They didn't come back into the fourth quarter with it was like 60, 70-yard run or something like that for a touchdown. And then I want to say in the fourth quarter, they ended up getting another strip sack or something like that. They strip them. They recover the fumble. They run it back to like the 10-yard line or something like that. And that's how they end up getting their other score in the fourth. So 34-0, barely even at 34. Definitely was not an impressive game from Penn State. Definitely disappointed in them.
Yeah, really not a great look for them this week. Again, I hope they look better. I hope they turn around a little bit and kind of hit those cues that they need to be hitting. But as an Iowa fan who's looking at we have Penn State at home later on down the season, kind of like that they're not looking great. Especially when they're ranked high. Like if maybe they'll be undefeated at that point, but still not looking great, and maybe we can get a big upset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would hope so. I feel the same way, especially for when they play Ohio State. I'm hoping that this doesn't they use this and get mad, and it kind of builds momentum. But it also kind of makes me think like maybe they were holding some players back, or they limited the offense. They didn't want to do too much because they didn't want to risk injury, or I don't know what their mindset could have been. It might have just been an off day or a great day for FIU. So
yeah, it could have been. I mean, maybe you're right. Maybe they are trying to shield their playbook a little bit, kind of not holding back on their playbook, so that way they're not showing every little trick they have in the book, during these early weeks against these opponents they know they can beat.
Yeah. So, but I'll give FIU credit. I'll say it's a win-win for both teams. FIU shows that they can compete a little bit with some bigger teams. And Penn State still got their win. They're still number 2. So I guess that's good for them. And I guess the last big game that we'll kind of jump into and talk about was our double overtime game with Boston College and Michigan State. It was just a back and forth game. Like, if you wanted to see good football that weekend, that was the game to watch. If you have time, I would definitely go back and suggest that you should go and watch the recap for that. A lot of big scores, a lot of big explosive plays. Just the most exciting part was that overtime period. So they get to overtime. In the first overtime, Michigan starts out overtime and they score the touchdown. They kick the extra point. And then Boston College comes back and they respond with the touchdown pass first in the second overtime. So we get there, and that's when I'm all excited, ready to see what happens. So Boston College starts with the ball, and they score. So I'm kind of thinking, like, it's definitely Boston College going to win. But since in college, when you're in a double overtime, you have to go for 2. You can't, like, kick the extra point. They go for their 2, and they do not get it. So they're only up 6. So now that means that Michigan State has to score, and they have to get their 2. So when they get the ball, they're going, and they score. So now it's a tie game, and they need their 2 to win the game out. They go for 2. They roll out, they throw, and they get it. They win in double overtime. Big win for Michigan State, a 40-42 win, 82 total points scored. We definitely didn't think that was going to be one of the bigger games, but I would say that's probably the best game from all of this week.
Yeah, a really exciting matchup that didn't – right, like you said, we didn't really think was going to turn out overly great. I mean, I expected it to be competitive because of, just the size of these schools and like the power of these teams, but I did not expect it to be that exciting and go into double OT like that.
Yeah, definitely was a good game. So I definitely think if you want a good game to watch, that's one that you should look at. So to go over some of the other scores for the rest of the Big Ten, we had Western Illinois versus Northwestern, and that was 7-42, Northwestern winning. Northern Illinois versus Maryland, and Maryland won 20-9. Grambling and Ohio State, that was a huge blowout, 70-0. I think that was the biggest point differential for all of the games. Next was Oklahoma State and Oregon. That was 69-3, another blowout. We had Kennesaw State and Indiana. That was 9-56. Northwestern State versus Minnesota was 0-66. MTSU versus Wisconsin was 10-42. Miami, Ohio versus Rutgers was 17-45. Akron versus Nebraska was 0-68. GA Southern versus USC was 59-20. USC winning. Boston College, Michigan State. We did that one, 42-40. Southern Illinois and Purdue. Purdue won 34-17. UCLA and UNLV. UNLV won 30-23. UC Davis and Washington. Washington won 70-10. So there were a lot of blowouts. A huge week for Big Ten. They put up a lot of points, a ton of points. So that just goes to show how explosive the Big Ten is. Anytime you want to see some touchdowns, that's the conference to come to. That's the conference to watch because they will not disappoint. They will give you a lot of points.
Definitely. And I want to say about Purdue, I know in our last episode, I said some negative things, but you know what? They start off 2-0 this year. That's impressive. They haven't done that in a while. So looking forward to seeing how they're going to turn out this year now.
Yeah. So with that, we'll wrap up the show. We thank you all for watching. We hope you have a safe day, safe travels, and God bless.